So let's make sure we've got all the tools ready, curve, flat, snap, ready to go. And at the moment, it's just going to be a test between what is the right size and resolution for each stroke. And then we see how smooth it is. So at a size of 30, let's draw it over. You can see it's a bit too big, so I'm going to undo that. And let's do 20. We'll typed in numerals here so we can replicate it if we forget the value. And 20 looks to be a good halfway house between them. Now, the reason why I'm not so bothered about this, looks pretty blocky, doesn't it? But because it's just the base layer of hair, this is the underside part, so I'm not going to be too worried about how blocky this part is. But one thing I will do, however, is I will go to stroke, I'll go to curve, and I just want to make sure to lock the start. And the reason for that being is that when we start moving the hair, we want the root to stay the same, you see. If I was to undo that and started moving the hair, you can see I can pull it straight off, which is not helpful. So the process will be to draw the strand, we'll get the start of it in the correct place. You can still move the start of it and always put it a little bit over than what you'd think it to be, and then you can start to move this area here, and that area, that start will always be locked. Okay, so it's handy for us to have that. So this is a little bit too short, so I'm going to extend it down here. Okay, and as a rule of thumb, you always generally want to draw more than you'll need. Okay, so this one here, even though it's a little bit long, that's fine. That can play into the extra strands of ponytail hair we can get once it's wrapped around. Okay, so it's going to be a bit of a time-consuming process, this, but I like the curve it's got on that. So when you're happy with the curve, Alt-click somewhere, and I'm just going to move to my move brush. And because everything else is masked off, we can use either of the brushes here. And I'm just going to move that up and over. And so I'm not wanting to, I'm not creating hair that's sitting off her head yet, so I'm not going to move it out like that. I'm just going to move it off her scalp because this is the type of hair that's pretty much against her scalp. Okay, so that's the idea of this layer of hair, is that it's very much on her head still, right? It's just going to stop the head from looking too bald when you look at it. Okay, so that's the process there. If we check our polygroups there, and we can take the texture off, we can see that it's all one polygroup, which is fantastic. Let's just check that polygroup. Yes, it stays a separate polygroup. Okay, so that's going to be the workflow for us at the moment. All right, so again, we'll go back to the brush, and what did we say? Size 20. You can vary the size, but I'm going to stick with 20 for the time being. I'm just going to draw one on top again. I'm just going to try my best to layer them as well over each other, just so that they look a bit more like they would in real life. So you see again here, it's got an issue where it's kind of dug into the head a little bit too much, but once we all click to accept it, we can easily use our move tool and have much greater effect and control over how this hair behaves. So do just try your best to layer it over the other one or under the other one, what have you, but try and kind of have it cascade essentially, okay, so that it's kind of overlapping each other. It's not just going to be straight lines like lanes. Have the hair overlap each other for added realism. Okay, just check it from every angle. I know it's very time consuming to do this, but the more time you spend on this stage, the better results you'll get. I just simply cannot tell you how much better your results will be. Okay, so we don't have to do it strand by strand. We can keep going. We can go, okay, we'll do one more. Okay, and you can see just by touching it once after drawing out the strand just helps it adhere to the head very nicely, and that's always a good thing. So move that there. So for example, let's do 2. Okay, and we'll do one more just for demonstrations purposes. Okay, lock that there. And this one I'm actually going to have overlap the other ones I've drawn so far. Okay, so what am I going to do here? Well, that looks good to me. I'll just angle it a bit more there like that. Okay, and I'm going to alt click. There we go. Because these are all different polygroups, we can easily just use our move topological brush instead of our move brush to access this. Okay, so we can use the move topological brush to move out the pink, or actually we could, yes, it should be able to do that. I think what might be easier is using the move brush. So the move brush will move anything that's not masked. Obviously you know this. So I'm just going to move that up. The point I'm trying to make is you can keep drawing strands and then move them later, but just bear in mind that the more strands you draw, the more confusing it could potentially get for yourself. So do try and draw maybe a few strands first, and then always make sure to come back and adjust as you see fit. Okay, now that looks good to me. Let's go to another one here. I'm going to select, can be a bit tricky, select that one, mask that one, and then flip the mask so I can now adjust this one. Okay, so that one there is going to be very much a filler hair strand, so you can see there that that's just kind of filling in the gaps. What I might do, because it's so close to the head, I might actually no, actually I just keep it going on top there. That's fine. Okay, we have to kind of work in layers here. Think about it in layers. Okay, so if that's the lowest layer, sorry, I'm going to have to raise these other ones up so it's not so much clipping everywhere. Okay, so say it's just a bit of attention to detail at this point will save you quite a lot of work in the long run. And if you want, let's mask that off. We can now try and use our move topological brush to communicate between these different strands. Okay, so if you want this second strand, for instance, to be on top of the other, you can kind of play around with that until you're happy. So let's move that around. So you can see it's just a very, what can we say, time-consuming part to do this, but again, it's good thing to do, good thing. Okay, what's going on here? Bit of a clash. Okay, so that's right up against the head there. So is this area here. So let's use our move brush and we'll just move all of these off a little bit, give them a bit more room. Then we can see here as well, that's a bit off. And then we've got this strand here. If we look at this one, oops. Hello, what's going on here? That one, please. Yes. Okay, and let's flip the thing on that. We can see that appears to be cutting into the head at some point. Let's mask this one too. You can even use your standard brush as well, just to kind of push it up and over a little bit as well. So your standard brush can also do the trick in terms of just raising the overall hair card off the head. Okay. Sorry guys, I know I'm being a bit meticulous about this. I don't mean to be, but just a bit of extra work here at this point in time goes a long way in the future. Okay, right, with that sorted out, that's fine. I'm probably being too meticulous about it, so let's get back to it. Where we need the curve flat snap. Okay, now this is a varying 21.5, so let's see what that does for us. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start doing hair from a different sector of the head. So maybe from here, let's draw one from the back here, straight down. Okay, because you want kind of hair strands going a different way, so I want to put that there. I want to still curl it around a little bit. Still curl it around a little bit, just to add a bit of curvature. There you go. Okay. And let's do one more. Okay, and we'll do one more to fill in that gap. That went the wrong way, but we can adjust it. There we go. So obviously it's going to get to a point where it clips at the back here. That's inevitable. Don't worry about it. The ponytail is going to have lots of different layers kind of climbing over one another. It's perfectly natural. So don't worry about that at all. Okay, just do your best to raise the hair cards off and try and blend them with one another. That's the main thing we're looking at here. Take it strand by strand. Don't be unafraid to stretch the strands if you need to. Okay, so one thing I will say is just be aware of how open these strands are. You can see here that this is quite an open area now. Just be aware of how open that can get sometimes. So if you see something like that, do take the time to come and see if there's anything you can do with your Move Topological brush just to kind of blend it in a little bit more, just so you don't get these openings. There shouldn't be like vent-like openings like that, because that's not very realistic. Okay, so always have the back end stick up higher than the front end. The front end being the edge that faces towards the front of the face, and the back end being, well, obviously the edge that faces towards the back of the head. And as you can see here, we're already getting a lot of fighting going on with the polys here. Again, don't worry about that. That's perfectly normal. As the strands start to congregate around a central area. And then, oh, we don't want to move the head. Let's mask the head. And there we go, just kind of. So if you're wondering why it's tricky to select it with the Move Topological brush, it's because the Move Topological brush can only select vertices. Okay, so it's having a hard time selecting those vertices right now. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to layer the hair cards so that they work with each other. And I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to use my inflate brush. Where is it? There it is. I'm just going to inflate them. Out the head, sorry. There we go. Inflate them all at once. Should have done that in the first place. There you go. I often forget that with these hair cards and with other IMM brushes that the rest of ZBrush's tools work as well. You know, it's easily forgotten, at least for me, because I'm old and I forget things. So let's put that there. Okay, so again, you're going to have a bit of clashing like that, but that's fine, because these guys will soon be dwarfed by another layer of hair. Okay, we've done ones coming from the central parting, but don't forget we have hair coming elsewhere as well, and this is where it's going to start to get a little bit busy. So let's do strand size 22, and we've got hair that sits down the side of our heads here as well, so let's draw a few strands coming from there. And you can see that actually already sits underneath, which is quite nice. We'll just keep that guy underneath, but we could bring him down a little bit, just make him a bit more visible and kind of tie him back up over here. And you can really sort of press him underneath if you want. So with this kind of tool, you could even create hair strands after the fact underneath the other ones. Okay, so that's a really cool thing about this tool, is that you can absolutely do that and it's not a problem. Now this may or may not be clipping into the head, we don't know, but at the end of the day we can always come and check that after the fact. Let's just get the hair cards playing nice with each other first and worry about the head mesh later. Let's just do another one here. Okay, curve it round the ears. We'll start it off. That looks good to me. Like that, it kind of clipped itself under there. That looks good. Let's accept that. And we'll use our move brush. Don't save just yet, ZBrush, thank you. I'm going to use our move brush, just kind of get it a little bit closer to its friend there. And we can have this directly intersect almost through some of the hair strands. Like that. Okay. There we go. So we're starting to get just a few strokes there. So what that will reflect is like small little alpha strands here just kind of coming from the hair. All I will say is it would be worth just kind of angling it forward. So if I solo this now, just sort of make the top angle more forward and then the bottom angle further back, just because it's going to look a bit more natural. Okay, I haven't done that for the other one, so I should do that. I'll rectify that now. So let's solo that out. We'll move the top and bring back there. Okay, just so that when we start to draw hair strands later, it will look a bit more natural with the alpha texture. Okay, there we go. And can we sneak one more in? Can we be sneaky and sneak one more in? Let's do a size 18, a smaller one. We'll start it around here just to the front of the ear and we'll curve it back round. Okay, we'll make this one sit quite low over the ear, and let's just move him over the ear just that much. Fabulous. And we'll just kind of tuck him in there. That's fine. Just pull him out a bit. There we go, there he is. Pull him forward, and let's just rest him there like that. Okay. Fabulous. Looks a little bit jagged. Now we've got to do the other side. Are you ready? I'm not ready for the other side. Do you know why? Do you know why? Here's the funny thing about this part, right? So guess what? I think you already know what's coming. Let's demask everything. We're going to duplicate the head. We'll hide the original just so we don't get confused. We're going to hide the head. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that just lovely? That is beautiful to look at. Let's go to geometry. Modify topology. Delete hidden. And then we've got, look at what we've got here. If we go back to our original hair mesh, we've got hair. We've got an extra set of hair. Guess what's going to happen now? Deformation. Mirror and X. And it flies all the way over here. We say no, don't go all the way over there. Unlock the padlock. Come over here. Ta-da! Obviously, well, I'm not going to be that lazy. I am going to spend some time moving this about now, giving a bit of variation, but essentially, that's what you want. Okay, and now with the other side done, you can start to negotiate kind of both sort of planes here. So we don't want it just being a completely middle like that. Let's kind of variate it a little bit. So we'll just introduce a bit of variation. Perhaps we'll slide these further back. Okay, and then now we can start to define the line a bit more. And it's on another subtool, so we don't have to worry about it, but we do have to, if we go back to the old subtool, we do have to worry about the head being masked. So let's just mask the head. It's happened to me plenty of times before where I've been working on the hair and the head is incredibly warped on the bottom. It looks kind of silly. Okay. So effectively something like this. Something like that. Okay. But the important part here is we've got some ponytail action going on already in the back towards the back of her head. Okay. It's like that. So don't worry if this part looks too symmetrical. It's not a big deal because the strands we paint on top will be the dividing factor. Okay. So now that we've got the base hair there, we can see that she's not bald anymore. She's going to have some kind of hair. The last thing I'll do is a little extra bonus for this is we can come to the, we could actually, well, maybe not just yet, I'll show you how to do it, but we won't probably do this just yet. But in our extra subtool here, that is the hair on the other side, we can come to texture map, and we'll poly paint it, we'll colorize it. Okay, let's make sure we get a little UV map first, we'll create that. 512, that's fine, poly paint. And let's just, oh, we should actually go to texture map, and we should, actually with poly paint on, I think we can just go to skin shade. Ah, I thought it worked on the head, it didn't work on the head. Never mind. And we should just be able to paint. Or am I forgetting something? No, add depth, nope, can't paint. Ah, oh, it's a move brush. Nope. How do we do this again? I always forget one particular part. But essentially what I'm trying to say is you can poly paint it. Okay, that's one thing you can do there. New texture? Well, yeah, okay, there you go. It's like I always forget how to use poly paint. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I knew. I thought I had figured it out, but no, unfortunately not. But yes, you can use poly paint. That's one way of doing it. Okay, so you can just see a representation of the hair. I chose to turn it brown, essentially. Okay, I'll figure out poly paint at some point. I know there's a sequence you have to do it by. I just did it wrong there because I'm old. Okay, so I'm going to end the video here, guys. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll start creating some of these layers to hide some of these awful kind of poly hair bits.